What is human trafficking? Human trafficking is an illegal act and is considered a violation of human rights and inimical to human dignity and national development. There are three interrelated and interdependent elements that must be present for a situation to be considered within the purview of RA 1186-2. The elements are acts. It involves the recruitment, obtaining, hiring, providing, offering, transportation, transfer, maintaining, harboring, or receipt of persons with or without the victim's consent or knowledge, or within or across national borders. Means, it is committed by use of threat or force or other forms of coercion, abduction, fraud, deception, abuse of power or of position, taking advantage of the vulnerability of the person, or the giving or receiving of payments or benefits to achieve the consent of a person having control over another person. And lastly, the purpose. It is done for the purpose of exploitation or the prostitution of others or other forms of sexual exploitation, forced labor or services, slavery, involuntary servitude, or the removal or sale of organs. Each of these elements must be present and linked to each other. The act or acts must achieved by one of the means, and both must be linked to achieving the exploitative purpose.
Prohibited acts of human trafficking, sex trafficking. Sex trafficking occurs when a person is recruited, transported, transferred, or harbored for the purpose of sexual exploitation, prostitution, and pornography. These include the acts of introducing or match for money, profit, or material, economic or other consideration, or to offer or contract of marriage, either real or simulated, or to undertake or organize tours and travel plans consisting of tourism packages, or to adopt or facilitate the adoption of persons. And then next slide, please. Labor trafficking. Labor trafficking involves the recruitment, harboring, transportation, provision, or obtaining of a person for labors or services through the use of force, fraud, or coercion for the purposes of subjection to involuntary servitude, death bondage, or slavery. This involves acts that to introduce or match for steal for money or profit or material or economic or other considerations, and also to adopt or facilitate the adoption of persons. Next slide, please. Child trafficking. This includes the acts of recruit, transport, harbor, obtain, transfer, maintain, hire, offer, provide, adopt, or receive a child for purposes of exploitation or trading them. Also, this includes the act of buying or selling a child. Includes all forms of slavery, involuntary servitude, death bondage, and forced labor. Offer a child for prostitution, use of a child for the production of trafficking of drugs, or even use, procuring, or offering of a child for illegal activities. When the victim is a child, the means of a threat or use of force or other forms of coercion, abduction, fraud, deception, these acts shall not be necessary. So in the case of overseas domestic work, a child means a person below 24 years old. Next slide, please. Acts that promote trafficking in person. Knowingly lease or sublease, use or allow to be used any house, building, or establishment, or any vehicle or carrier by land, sea, or air, or any of their computer system or computer hardware. Example of this is that you allow to have your building to be set, to be used in promoting prostitution or even using a large vehicle or through online prostitution. Second, produce, print, and issue or distribute unissued, tampered, or fake passports, birth certificates, and other documents. With the advanced technology, anyone with a high-tech machine can print a fake passport or birth certificates. Next slide, please. Advertise, publish, print, broadcast, or distribute or cause the advertisement, publication, printing, broadcasting, or distribution by any means. This includes the use of information technology and the internet of any brochure, flyer, or any propaganda material. And then assist in the conduct of misrepresentation or fraud for purposes of facilitating the acquisition of clearances and necessary except documents. So an example for this is an employee issued a certificate from DSWD for a child to be permitted to travel abroad, but his real purpose was to coerce the child to labor. And then facilitate, next slide please, facilitate, assist, or help in the exit and entry of persons from or to the country at international and local airports. So an airport personnel may be liable if found that he promoted trafficking of persons in the airport. And then confiscate, conceal, or destroy the passport, travel documents, or personal documents or belongings of trafficked persons. A destroyed passport prevents the trafficked persons from, of course, leaving the country or seeking help from the government. Next slide, please. Knowingly benefit from financial or otherwise, or make use of the labor or services of a person held to a condition of involuntary servitude, forced labor, or slavery. So an agent or an illegal recruiter may be the subject of these acts. And then for intermediaries to knowingly or by gross negligence allow their internet infrastructure to be used, and then internet cafes, kiosks, and hotspots. This includes the establishments offering Wi-Fi access to the public to knowingly or by gross negligence allow their facilities to be used for the purpose of promoting trafficking in persons. Next slide, please. Knowingly or by gross negligence, facilitate, assist, or help in the entry into the country of persons who are convicted sex offenders. So whether at international and local airports. And then to arrange, facilitate, expedite, or cause the introduction or encounter of persons who are suspected or convicted sex offenders in any jurisdiction to a child. So the actual introduction or encounter need not occur to be liable under this provision. It is enough that there is a deliberate attempt to cause the introduction or encounter. Next slide, please.
Trafficking in persons will be qualified under Section 6 of RA 11862. So this includes if the trafficked person is a child, so automatically it will be qualified. By the way, the essence of qualified trafficking in person is that the penalty is maximum, which is life imprisonment. Another instance is in adoption or inter-country adoption, where the purpose of such adoption is for prostitution, pornography, and other trafficking acts. When the crime is also committed in a syndicate or large scale, so it will be qualified trafficking. The syndicate when the offenders are 3 or more, and large scale if the victims are 3 or more. It will also be qualified trafficking if the offender has relationship with the offended party, or if done by military or law enforcement agency, or if the offended party dies or becomes insane or suffers mutilation and afflicted by HIV or AIDS. Qualified trafficking is also done when such trafficking act is done 60 or more days, or when it is done during a disaster or calamity. So when it is done during the pandemic, then it may be considered as qualified trafficking. So when the trafficked person belongs to an indigenous community or religious minority, or when the person is a PWD or it resulted in pregnancy, or the person suffered from emotional disorder. And lastly, this is one of the salient features, if such act or trafficking in person is committed through ICT or computer system. So if it is done through online, Facebook, Messenger, it is qualified trafficking. So the penalty of qualified trafficking is maximum, that is life imprisonment. And some salient features, first is internet intermediaries will be liable. So basically those that provides internet connectivity, like internet service providers, Globe, PLDT Smart, they will be liable if they knowingly allow such trafficking activities to be done on their platforms or infrastructure. Financial intermediaries like credit card companies or banks, if they know that such transactions resulted from trafficking in persons. And another salient feature is affidavit of desistance does not will not result in the dismissal of the case. And lastly, continuing human trafficking is a continuing crime. So that means no warrant of arrest is required, since you can be arrested anytime. So that's it. Thank you very much for listening. Goodbye and God bless.